Nikita Robin and welcome to SG Global News. From the 2,112 individuals in Malaysia who will be baptized as Catholics during this year's Easter Vigil, to the film The Last Supper, which reflects on the final days of Jesus through the eyes of those who walked alongside him, we have many stories to cover. In the Muslim-majority nation of Malaysia, 2,112 individuals will enter into full communion with the Catholic Church during this year's Easter Vigil. During the rite of election ceremony on March 9th, Archbishop John Wong urged the catechumens to follow Christ's example and grow spiritually through daily Christian living.
During this year's Easter Vigil, 2,112 catechumens will enter the Catholic Church in the Archdiocese of Kota, Kinabalu, Malaysia. The rite of election for these catechumens took place on March 9th at Sacred Heart Cathedral in Kota, Kinabalu. Metropolitan Archbishop John Wong Su Kau presided over the ceremony and blessed the catechumens along with their sponsors and guides. During his homily, the Archbishop implored the catechumens to follow Christ's example in overcoming life's challenges and to hold firm to the Word of God as their daily strength. He reminded them that spiritual growth and readiness should be demonstrated through daily Christian living, including acts of forgiveness, prayer, helping others, obedience to God's will, and leading a moral life in accordance with Christ's teachings. At the end of the ceremony, parish representatives submitted the enrollment files of the catechumens. By signing the files, the Archbishop formally acknowledged their acceptance into the next stage of their faith journey, which will conclude with the reception of the sacraments of initiation during the Easter Vigil. Catholicism reached the shores of Malaysia in the early 16th century with the Portuguese conquest of Malacca in 1511. Following the Portuguese, Jesuits and Franciscans took over evangelization efforts in the country. Saint Francis Xavier was among the missionaries who proselytized in the region. The Catholic Church in Malaysia has experienced periods of decline and resurgence. After World War II, with increased local leadership and the establishment of more parishes and schools, Catholicism in Malaysia entered a period of revival. Today, the Catholic Church in Malaysia is recognized for its contributions to education, healthcare, and social welfare. According to the 2023 report on the international religious freedom published by the US Embassy in Malaysia, Christians remain a minority in the country. 63.5% of the population practices Islam, followed by 18.7% who identify as Buddhists. Christians make up only 6.1% of the population.
Good news from the Vatican. The Pope's health is improving and doctors at Gemelli Hospital have lifted their prognosis. While his condition remains stable, he may need to continue treatment at the hospital due to the severity of the infection when he was first admitted.
Owing to Pope Francis' good response to pharmacological treatment and recent improvements in his health, doctors at Gemelli Hospital have decided to lift their guarded prognosis. According to a March 10th release from the Holy See Press Office, the Holy Father's health condition remains stable and both blood tests and clinical findings confirmed his improvement. However, the doctors stated that given the complexity of the Pope's clinical picture and the severe infection that was present at the time of hospitalization, it will still be necessary for him to continue treatment in the hospital setting for a while. According to the update, the Holy Father was able to follow the Roman Curia's spiritual exercises via video on Monday morning and spend time in prayer at the chapel of his private apartment before resuming the afternoon sessions of the spiritual exercises. Throughout the day, the Pope alternated between prayer and rest. The Roman Curia's spiritual exercises, which are held every year, began on Sunday afternoon in the Paul VI Hall and are being led by the preacher of the papal household, Father Roberto Pasolini, OFM Cap.
The United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case challenging Colorado's ban on conversion therapy for minors with gender dysphoria. On Monday, March 10th, justices announced they would review the legal challenge to Colorado's law, which specifically prohibits licensed psychologists and therapists from conducting conversion therapy.
The United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case challenging Colorado's ban on conversion therapy for minors experiencing gender dysphoria or same-sex attraction. The court will address the legal implications of this prohibition in light of religious freedom and free speech concerns. Colorado law defines conversion therapy as any practice or treatment that seeks to alter a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. This includes efforts to change behaviors, gender expressions, or to reduce or eliminate sexual or romantic attraction to individuals of the same sex. Kaylee Childs, a Christian counselor, filed a lawsuit in 2022 challenging the law. Childs argues that the law constitutes viewpoint discrimination as it allows therapy that supports gender transitions but bans therapy that aligns with religious beliefs about sexuality and gender. She is represented by Alliance Defending Freedom, a Christian legal organization with history of winning religious freedom cases at the Supreme Court. The lawsuit contends that Colorado law infringes on Childs' First Amendment rights, specifically her right to free speech and free exercise of religion. Childs maintains that some of her clients seek counseling that reflect Christian values on human sexuality and treatment of their own bodies. Currently, more than 20 states in the US have either restricted or outright banned conversion therapy.
Texas A&M University is facing a lawsuit from its Queer Empowerment Council after the university's Board of Regents passed a resolution on February 28th prohibiting drag performances across its 11-campus system. The board cited concerns that such performances were inconsistent with the university's mission and values and could impact federal funding.
A lawsuit has been filed against Texas A&M University following a resolution passed on February 28 by its Board of Regents prohibiting drag performances across its 11-campus university system. On March 5th, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression filed a lawsuit in the federal court representing the Queer Empowerment Council at the university. Following the board's resolution, the Queer Empowerment Council, a student group that hosts the annual Draggyland, will have to find a new venue. Students have also held drag shows at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi and East Texas A&M University. The Queer Empowerment Council also alleged the system violated their First Amendment rights and the Texas Open Meetings Act. However, the board emphasized that drag shows were inconsistent with the system's mission and core values of its universities and likely to create or contribute to a hostile environment for women. The Board of Regents resolution also noted that since both the system and the universities received significant federal funding, the use of facilities at the universities for drag show events may be considered promoting gender ideology in violation of Trump's executive order and the governor's directive.
A sense of fear is mounting among Syria's Christian minority as the ongoing persecution of minorities by government-backed jihadi forces spreads to other parts of the country. Though the official number relating to the Christian casualties isn't available yet, the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Damascus said Christians were brutally murdered along with the country's Alawite minority.
Fear grips Syrian Christians as the ongoing attacks on Christians and other minorities, especially Alawites, spread to different parts of the country. The ongoing killing spree, which started in Alawite-majority areas, is now slowly creeping into Syrian heartlands as reports of men and young boys belonging to the Ismaili community being dragged by jihadists have been circulating on social media. Even though the Syrian government downplayed the killings as a result of clashes between Assad supporters and pro-government forces, the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights stated that the killings were retaliatory and that the perpetrators intended to cleanse the country's Alawite and Christian populations in coastal Syria. The organization also reports that around 1,500 people have perished in the incidents, of whom approximately 100 to 150 belong to the Syriac Orthodox background. As the exact number of Christian casualties is yet to be revealed, the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch, during a sermon in Damascus, said that many Christians were slaughtered along with Alawites in Latakia. Several social media observers have also reported an uptick in obituaries announcing the deaths of Christians circulating on social media.
Gillian McKay, the Scottish lawmaker behind abortion buffer zones, has admitted that in certain situations, praying in one's own home could violate the law. This acknowledgement contradicts the stance she took when US Vice President J.D. Vance raised the issue during the Munich Security Conference.
Gillian Mackay, the Scottish Parliament member behind the creation of abortion buffer zones, has admitted that there are situations where praying in one's own home could violate the law. The concession comes despite her earlier dismissal of claims made by US Vice President J.D. Vance during the Munich Security Conference, which she previously described as misinformation. Abortion buffer zones are designed to prevent actions that may cause distress to individuals seeking access to abortion services, prohibiting interference with or attempts to influence their decision. Vance had highlighted that individuals living within these zones have received letters from the government warning that private activities like praying at home could be deemed unlawful if visible or audible within the zone. The letters specified that such activities could constitute an offense if done intentionally or recklessly. Initially, Mackay refuted Vance's claims, but when pressed, she acknowledged that praying near a window in one's home could potentially breach the law, depending on who might be passing by. Earlier last month, a grandmother named Rose Doherty was arrested for holding a sign in the buffer zone. In England and Wales, safe access zones or buffer zones came into effect on October 31st, 2024, making it illegal to intentionally or recklessly influence, obstruct, or harass individuals accessing or providing abortion services within 150 meters of the clinic.
In a meeting considered a subsequent event to the landmark talks between the US and Russia, which were held in Riyadh last month, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman touched on the ongoing situation in the Middle East. Before heading to Riyadh, the Secretary addressed the escalating situation in Syria and expressed solidarity with the country's persecuted Christians.
In a meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on Tuesday morning, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio discussed the Egyptian and American plans to reconstruct Gaza and touched on the ongoing impasse regarding the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire. The meeting, which was held at the same venue in Riyadh, where the historic talks between U.S. and Russia were held last month, saw both leaders discussing Egypt's plan to revamp Gaza as a tourist spot, a plan formulated during the meeting of Arab leaders in Cairo last week. Rubio stated that the plan was a good start and a right step for the post-war management of Gaza. The Secretary of State also asserted that the Trump administration would fully support any solutions that did not involve Hamas in addressing the situation in Gaza. The Saudi Crown Prince then talked about the ongoing turmoil in Saudi Arabia's neighboring country, Yemen, and briefed Rubio on methods by which Saudi forces are combating the Houthi threats to the cargo ships navigating through the Gulf of Aden. Secretary Rubio then addressed the escalating situation in Syria and talked about various ways to promote a stable government free of terrorism. Before heading to the meeting, Secretary Rubio, in a press conference, said that radical Islamist terrorists were behind the massacres of Alawites and Christians in Syria and formally expressed American solidarity with the Christians who were murdered and displaced during the onslaught.
This Friday, The Last Supper, a film that retells the final days of Jesus through the eyes of those who walked alongside him, will hit theatres. Directed by Mauro Borelli and brought to theatres by Pinnacle Peak Pictures, the movie features a stellar cast and an original song by Chris Tomlin, who also serves as an executive producer.
In less than 3 days, The Last Supper, a movie depicting the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ through the eyes of those who walked alongside him, will hit theatres. This powerful portrayal of Jesus' final days is directed by Mauro Borelli, an Italian Catholic who co-wrote the film with John Collins. It is being brought to theatres by Pinnacle Peak Pictures, the studio behind The Case for Christ and God's Not Dead. Australian actor Jamie Ward portrays Jesus, while Robert Nepper and James Oliver Whitley bring Judas Iscariot and Simon Peter to life respectively. Pinnacle Peak Pictures CEO Michael Scott described the movie as a cinematic journey back 2,000 years, allowing viewers to walk alongside Jesus and his disciples. He highlighted the dynamic between Peter and Judas as well as the betrayal and emphasized that the film serves as a reminder to Hollywood that these kinds of movies need to be made. The movie also features an original song by Chris Tomlin known for How Great Is Our God and Whom Shall I Fear. Hailed by Time magazine as the most often sung artist in the world, Tomlin also makes his debut in theatrical filmmaking as an executive producer of the movie. Filmed amid Morocco's dramatic oasis, rocky plateaus, cedar forests, and sandy beaches, the film focuses on the significance of the Last Supper and the 2,000-year-old sacrament of communion. By juxtaposing the final Passover of Jesus with his ultimate sacrifice on the cross, the Last Supper highlights the true meaning of Holy Communion. Although The Last Supper is not backed by a major studio, it is a labor of love from those passionate about spreading the good news. The filmmakers hope that by portraying the characters in a more relatable light, the film will bring others closer to Christ and reach people who may never step foot in a church.
That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.